So here we will know more about the technologies and which all database packages we are using in the test case manager. This is all about the architecture. So we will go one by one. So why do we need the test case manager? Can anybody answer? Go ahead, Jessica.
To generate the test cases
Can you
and
repeat?
to generate the test cases and repeat them.
Okay. Great. So we need test case manager. So we need test case manager. What all problems we face in without test case manager? It is very difficult to manage different spreadsheets. Before implementing this test case manager, we used to create the test cases in Git repos in each of the repositories for that project. Then it is very tedious for people to maintain those different pages for the test cases. So this test case manager enables all the test cases for each project will be there in a single place. So anybody can look into the test cases and what are executed, which all test cases are failed and which all test cases are passed. So in this test case manager, we have three core components. One is test case manager, where you are going to create the test case, and test case execution, where you are going to execute the created test case, and in dashboard you are going to see the overall statistics about the which all projects are having how many test cases and which all passed, the count you are going to see in the dashboard. So let's see the high level architecture. So the test case manager, overall test case manager consists of three core components. We have three front end. All three front ends are integrated in the single page. So those all are in the React. So which all are deployed in the Cloudflare worker itself. So we have test case manager API, single API. These all three front ends are going to interact with the single API endpoint, and this API endpoint is connected to the test case AI test case manager DB database, and each environment is having its own database. For production, we have a prod. For dev, it is a dev, and for playtest, it is a PT. At the end, so the test case manager is also connected to the Craft Studio API for various purposes, to get the project's organization and components and to raise a defect. When particular test case is failed, that time we are going to create the defecting test case Craft Studio for that specific project and component in the test case manager application itself. So for that, there is only one Craft Studio API endpoint, which is external to this test case manager architecture. So this is the parent core provider. It is all the projects components and which are going to be created in future. Everything is going to come to the test case manager to create the test cases for that. So we will see the which all Git repos we have. As I already mentioned, we have three front-end repos and one back-end repos. So all the deployment environments you guys already know: playtest, dev, main, and e-team production. E-team production is for customer. Then we will see why we are using Craft Studio, how we are integrated Craft Studio into our test case manager application. So whenever we come open the test case manager, we are going to see the list of organization. These are the organizations which are there in the Craft Studio. And if you select different organization, you are going to see different project within that organization. So how these all are coming? Using these endpoints. To list all these organization, we are calling the organization endpoint from the Craft Studio API. Okay, and to get all the project, when you select that organization, we are calling this projects organization. We are passing organization ID over here to fetch all the projects. Same goes for component. When you select a particular project, that time to list all the components, we are using this component, and in query parameter, we are passing the project ID over here. So let's see the creation flow. When user comes to the test case manager, they will just click on the add or test case button. Then the front end validation will happen. Then whenever you save the test case with all the required fields entered, then you are going to call this put test case API. So it is going to it is the AI test case manager API only. So it is going to the test case manager. Then here all the authentication is verified. Then your data will be stored in the AI test case manager DB prod database for production. So this is the UI you all are familiar with. When you click on new, you are going to provide title, description, test case steps. In previous to this session, you already got familiar with how to use this. So I just go ahead with the technical part. So there are multiple API endpoints which perform CRUD operation in a test case. To create test case, we use put test case. So to get all the test cases within a project, within a component and different, there are multiple filtering features which are there. You can select project ID, component ID, status, priority order also you can select. And we also have the tags. So you can also add the tags to each of the project. So you can add the tags and you can get the list of test cases within that particular tag. So this is for getting listing down all the test cases based on the priority. To get the details of the specific test case, you are going to use this test cases and you are going to pass the test case ID over here to get all the details. It's title, description, test steps, precondition, expected result, everything you are going to get using this endpoint. So patch is for updating whenever you want to update something in the created test case, you are going to in backend, it is going to call this API endpoint. To delete a specific test case, we have that archive option to deactivate a test case. That time we are calling this delete. This is just a soft delete. We are not completely deleting the record. So the database, the record will be there, but in front end it will not be visible. So for adding the tags, so I will show you how you add the tags. Okay. So here we have a tag feature. So which all APIs are used here to get the tags. These all are the available. Whenever you add your tags, so you can use all the existing global tags present over here. You can choose these, else you can create your own tag. So this is going to create the new tag. So which all endpoints are being used? Let's see for this feature. So here, whenever I type, it is showing all the available tags. We are using this tags get tags endpoint. But whenever I want to create a new tag which is not there in that tags list, that time we are calling put tags endpoint. So to add, so when I select that tags and it is added there, and when I click on the save, that time we are going to add this tag to that specific test case ID. For that, we are going to call this test case ID will be passed here and tags. So it will set the tag to that specific test case. To retrieve all the test cases which are attached to that specific tag, we are going to call this endpoint. So coming to the, this is all about the creation flow. I will just summarize for you. We will just come here and see, we will select organization, project and component. Then we are going to provide the title, description, precondition, test steps and expected result. Priority status we are going to provide. After that, If you want to provide tags, you can add the tags. This is optional. That time we are going to call this test case test by passing the test case ID over here and tags endpoint. So after that, when you click on save, we are going to call this put test cases, and it is going to save in the test case manager database. So let's see the execution part, which all how it works. Here also the flow is same. We need to select the organization, project, and component. And here we need to create the batch. Why we need to create a batch? Because we need to add the group of test cases in a single batch. Whenever you are performing any action in the test case, entire test case manager application, all the tasks are getting created in the Craft Studio. So for that, in test case execution, we have multiple endpoints which are being called. The execution is all about creating the batch, and we need to add the already created test cases into the batch. Then we will be marking the whether the test case is failed or fast. If it is fast, then the data will be saved, and if it is failed, then you are going to create the defect. The application is going to create the defect in Craft Studio, and it is also going to add the record in the test case manager result table also. So to create the batch, we are using execution batches endpoint. So it is going to create the batch. Whenever you click on this batch, and there is one button called add batch, that time we are going to call this create execution batches, put execution batches, and to list all the available batches. Like here, I will go to test case execution. I will select the project, and I will select any one of the component. You need to create a batch. If there are no batch, you need to create here. Here we are using put test case execution. But if there are multiple batches present over here, here there are multiple batches. For this, we are calling get test case batches. So once you click on this add batch, here we are going to provide the batch name, build ID, environment, and unassigned. Unassigned will be by default. You need to assign to yourself. Only the assigned person will be able to see that batch. If you change that, then only other people will be able to see that. So it is going to update. To update that created batch, we can use the batch endpoint by passing the batch ID over here. And to get all the batches, the list which you have saw, right? To that time we are calling this get execution batches. But in the dashboard, to see all the results statistic about the particular batch, we use this by passing execution batches, by passing the batch ID over here and stats. This is going to give all the statistics, all the passed, failed, and logged, not run, and pass rate for that particular batch ID. So in test case execution, we also use batch items. So whenever you click on that test case, let's say I have created this batch, and when I click on this, here there are no batch there. This is created by other person. That's why it is showing as a you are not allowed to use this. So I just change it to myself, my name, so I can able to do this. Yeah. So then only I will be able to add the new test cases into this. So whenever I'm clicking on add batch, so that time we are going to call these all endpoints. So let's see. To put all the items, whenever we are selecting that add items, add test case, right? That time we are calling this execution batches. Within that batch ID, we already created a batch. We are within that batch, so we know the batch ID. Then we are going to select the items. Means items are the test cases which we already created in test case manager. Now we are adding into the batch within the test case execution application. So that time we are going to call this endpoint, and to delete the created batch means created batch, within that we added multiple test cases. In that, if you want to remove any one of the test case, two or three, as per your wish, that time we are going to call this endpoint execution batch ID, item, and item ID will be the test case ID. So accordingly, it is going to delete the item test cases from that particular batch. So to list all the test cases within that batch, we are going to call this get endpoint. Simple. To see all the results, expected execution result within that batch, we can use this execution endpoint to retrieve the history of the execution runs and to add the results. Like whenever you select the batch within that, let's say I selected this test case and I added this into the batch. That time I can click on any one of the test case. If I click on pass and save as a result, that time we are going to call as a put execution result. That time it is going to store whether it is passed, failed or not. So if I click on pass, it is going to directly store, call this endpoint and store. If I mark it as a fail, if I click here as a fail, that time it is also going to call this endpoint, and in the database it is going to mark as a fail, and at the same time it is going to call the craft studio API to create the defect based on which project and which component you are in, because we are already selected one project and component. Within that we have created a batch, so we know which project and which component we are in. So within that component only this defect will be created in craft studio. Let's see the overall overview. So the same flow goes here. The organization you select, project, then component, then you are going to create a batch. That time you are going to call the put execution batches. Then if you want to add the test cases into that batch, you are going to call put execution batch. You are, by passing the batch ID over here, item seed. So this is going to add all the test cases into that particular batch and save in the database. So if we execute a particular test cases within that batch, if it is failed, then you are going to create the defect in the craft studio using this endpoint. Post API component spec, app builder component spec, because component spec are the component related requirements. That's why we named the API as a component spec. This is the craft studio API, which is reused in the test case manager. So if the test case is passed, then we are directly going to save the data in our execution result table. Then it is the simple. And then we have multiple tables in our test case manager application. Basically, we have test cases table. Whenever you add the new test case, that time all the details are going to be stored here. Here we have the external project ID and external component ID, because we are getting all the project and component from Craft Studio. To reference which project and component, we are storing the external ID field here, and the title, description, all the expected priority status, all the information which you are going to provide, all the information is going to store in this test cases table. And if you add the tag, that time each test case will be going to have the some tags. Only these many test cases are added, some of the tags, because tags is optional. If they want to add the tag, they will add, else no issues. So here we are going to store the test case ID and tag ID. All the tags are going to store here because these tags are global and it is not it is not a private person. So all the tags are global. Whichever tag they choose or whichever tag they create, that time the tags are going to create in the tags table. If they select the existing tags, then the tag ID will be taken from here and it is going to be mapped to that specific test case. Yeah, this is the test case from this test case, and tag ID from this tag table are mapped here. So in front end it is going to show for which all test case it is having the tags based on this tag ID. Then we have precondition whenever while during creation of the test case, you provide some precondition. All the preconditions for the specific test case are going to store in this test precondition table. And all the test steps means how to execute the test case, all the steps you are going to mention in the particular during creation of the test case, right? So that time all the information is going to store in the test steps, and test case ID is the foreign key in this table to refer which all test cases are having how many steps. Yeah. And to create a batch, execution batch for that particular in test case execution, we are going to create the batches, right? That time the batch ID and its name, whatever we are going to provide, all the information will be provided here. So once you add the test cases within that batch, the execution batch items. So it is going to store which all batches are having how many test cases. Here only the IDs are going to be stored because all the test cases are already there in the test cases table. Only the IDs for that batch are going to store here. So this is all about the test case manager application. To access the Swagger UI means for this test case manager, you can just go to the API AI test case manager docs. So here you can test each of the endpoint by yourself by authenticating using the cookie auth. Here you just provide your auth cookie and you can test. But all these endpoints are being used in that test case manager application. Here you can see three applications are integrated. The manager and application is different, execution is different, and dashboard is different because every application is having its own slug. Yeah. Any doubts? To get all the statistics, we are going to use the stats and API endpoint. If you have any doubts, you can ask.
Could you test some of the endpoints on the Swagger just so we can see?
Yeah, sure. So already authenticated using auth cookie. Okay. So I will just show you all the tags which are present over here. So it is global. So no need to provide any input here. So I can just click on execute. So we can see the all the tags created by multiple peoples. So these all are the tags present over here. Var is just now I have created. So and we can also test. We can also create a new tag by providing the input here. So it is going to create that specific tag. So we can also confirm whether the tag is created or not by calling this get endpoint. Is that secure? Yeah, secure chat test. This is the tag just I have created. All these test tags are according to the alphabet. Sorting is there according to the alphabet. Anything else? You can explore the Swagger UI by yourself. This is the endpoint API underscore test case underscore manager. After that, you can just provide the DOCS docs. Then you will get the Swagger UI for the test case manager. Then authenticate with cookie auth. here using your auth cookie. Just now I have used the XAPI key. You can provide your auth. So yeah.
Like how we are preventing from the duplicate test cases from being created. Like we have using anything for that.
Yeah, there is no duplication. You can create the same test cases multiple times. Let's say why you want to prevent duplicate test cases. Let's say in company multiple peoples are there. They want to test the same simple single application at the same time. Everyone can create their own batch and they can create their same test cases if they want to execute, and they can add their test cases into their own batch. So all the batches you can the same test case created in the test case manager can be added in the multiple batches. So that can be executed in multiple batches also. There is no such thing. There is no duplicate test case. We can test the single test case multiple times, right? To verify the application, we need to test multiple times. For that, we cannot make the restriction to have only unique test case. This is not the place to add the unique. Okay. Bye bye. Thank you.